Michael Martin, and I was raised in the city of San Fernando. My real father committed suicide, was an alcoholic. My stepfather was an alcoholic, beat my mother, beat us, and I didn't really get the bonding or the relationship I really needed at home. As a young man, 11, 12 years old, I had a very strong desire to belong and just to be accepted, and really be accepted by a male image. And it made me feel so good to know that the older guys in the neighborhood were talking about me, whether it was robbing a house, breaking into a car, fighting somebody that was bigger than me. And it was through that that I really began to see myself as a gang member, as somebody that was to be feared and somebody that was to be respected. I've been arrested about 100 times, was charged actually 35 times, meaning I was arrested and booked. Spent most of my teenage years in institutions. The last time I was arrested, I'd been out of a road camp for 3 weeks. I was 17 years old. And I was arrested for 30 counts of armed robbery. We had robbed 30 stores in the San Fernando Valley over a 20-day period. We were in a high-speed chase throughout the San Fernando Valley that concluded in a car accident with us almost going through the front of somebody's home. It was at that point that I realized that if I didn't make a decision to do something about where I was going, that I'd either end up dead or in the penitentiary and just live a life of crime. I had a probation officer who was very frustrated with the probation system, and so I began to work him and con him and to manipulate him to help me. He fought for me, and he came to court, and he finally got me placed in a drug program where really my life began to turn around.
My name's Estelle Martin, and I was born in Athens, Greece, near Athens, and lived in an orphanage and was adopted out of the orphanage when I was about 4 months old. We moved from New York to California when I was about 5 to a real small town. Well, I think a tough time for me was when I was about 7 years old. I had overheard in a conversation that I was adopted. And I didn't really think that was good or bad, and I asked my mom about it the next day, and she said, "Oh, you were adopted, but we really love you, but it's a real secret for us, and don't let your dad know that you know." And it just was like a real cutting point away from my family, because at that age I interpreted that as a shameful thing. They were just ashamed of me. They didn't really want to adopt me. They really wanted their own kids, and they couldn't have any. And it really separated us from that point on. And so I just didn't feel that I was accepted in the home. And I wanted to look for identity and caring somewhere. And I started, smoking pot with some of the kids that I thought were really nice and friendly and accepting. And I just went from one drug to the other. The person I was running around with, he was a drug dealer, and we would go to about 50 miles to get drugs and bring it back and sell it there in the town. And we were being followed by a police car, and I had to swallow all the heroin. I mean, it was like enough heroin that would have killed like 4 or 5 people over and over again, and that was pretty frightening for me. And you think about stories like that after the fact, and you realize that there was somebody watching out for me. So my parents didn't know what to do with me, and they took me to juvenile hall, and then I was placed in a permanent live-in drug program for 2 years.
What happened at this drug program is I became a staff member, and as a staff member, even though it wasn't the best thing, I could drink. And so I began drinking, and I realized that I was the same person on the inside. I began using alcohol the ways that I had used drugs. And so over these several years, Estelle and I had began dating, and then it began to get more serious, and then we moved in together, and we ended up getting married.
I ended up progressing on the program really quickly because, like I said, I was really anxious to have another life. That's not a lifestyle I really wanted. It was just a trap that I'd gotten myself into. And looking back, I know the devil is out trying to steal, kill, and destroy at any age, especially young people. And so I ended up working for the program, and we used to do fundraising. So I went to this next call, and I knocked, and I met the person there, and I started sharing about what I was doing, and she said to me, "Well, it's really nice, it's a great accomplishment, but there's still something missing in your life, isn't there?" And I thought, how did she know So I prayed with her, and didn't really feel anything initially, and I said goodbye, and you know, did my job part of it, and I left, and I started walking back down the way, and all of a sudden it was like I felt like I was literally, my feet came off the ground like at least 5 feet, and I felt like I was walking on air, and all of a sudden it was like the sky split, and I could just see and hear angels singing. And I knew from that point on that Jesus was real, and I just felt so blessed. I just felt like joy, just like a river come up inside me. I was so excited. Things began to get progressively worse with his drinking, and I knew that I just couldn't live another life like that again. I couldn't go back to those old ways, and you know, to drugs and alcohol, and that I needed to get on with my life and with the Lord, and I was going to do nothing but serve God, and He was going to lead me. And I decided that I needed to file for divorce so that it would be, you know, legal, and it would be just, it would end. Even though at that period of time where there was a lot of pain and we were separated and everything. That my heart just wanted to obey the Lord. And that He would work everything out. No matter how bad it looked. That He would work it all out. No matter what happened between us. That He would take care of everything. And that was always my hope, no matter what. And it still is. My hope in all situations.
I realized that I really needed to make some changes. And Estelle had encouraged me to get into Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I decided I was going to stop drinking. I was going to go to the program and literally see what happened. Talk about a higher power and turning your life over, and you know, your God can be whatever you want it to be. Well, I began to really consider God for really the first time seriously. Well, again, during this time, I had found a radio program at night that I was listening to, and I have no idea how I found it. I'm sure God led me there. And so one night, it seemed like the only time I had heard him make an altar call. Of course, he had done it after every program prior to that, but the Holy Spirit had me ready. And so we were laying in bed, and as he was praying, or as he was asking people to pray with him, I turned to Estelle and I said, that's something I need to do. And it was so exciting. I got up, I called the prayer line and said I've just prayed with Jerry Jones, and you know, I got the little information sent to us and stuff like that. And it was that night that I accepted Jesus Christ into my life, and things really began to turn around after that. After being married 23 years and having 3 children, 3 wonderful children that love God, that want to do the right things, that love us, that want to be with us, that aren't ashamed to be with us, and having a woman that God's given me, somebody that loves me, somebody that's stood with me, even when I've made very bad decisions. So I thank God for my family, for my children, and for my wife.